Alright, let's get going with 3.1.2. Thankfully, I think this one will be a little bit shorter and hopefully pretty straightforward. So this lesson is all about basically what is a function, how to write a function, and some different parts of said function. Okay? And it's trying to kind of make algebra into actually some words so you understand why we're doing things. So for example, it says choose the most appropriate translation for the following sentence. The height of a rose bush depends on its age. So what this is saying is if we wanted to graph the growth of a rosebud, we'd probably want to know its age. So the way I would think about this is height. Height is depending on something. What is it depending on? The age. So when you're writing these, you should think of the parentheses. So we're going to have some value and then a value on the inside. That parenthesis is your depends statement. So whatever is depending on something, so in this case height, it depends, so the parenthesis means depends on age. And that's how we would break this down. So the height depends on the age. Okay? So if we wanted to do our next one and translate it into this, we have cost of shipping depends, obviously important, on distance shipped. So cost depends on distance shipped. That tells me that cost, how much I'm going to spend, parentheses, which in math represents that depend statement, on distance. So you can think about that as you're trying to send something to someone in Europe. It's going to cost a lot more than sending it to someone in Virginia. Okay? And what we do with these equations is then start to put in values. So that's what 3 and 4 show us. You're going to be given some function, i.e. g of x equals 5x minus 12. Maybe that's the cost of something. Maybe it's how much money you earn in a week. It's whatever that function is. What happens if you do it 8 times? That's what g of 8 is asking you. So if we were to make this into our problem dealing with money. So supposedly you make $5 a week and you started off in the hole $12. How much would you have after 8 weeks? So what we do is everywhere we see x, we're just going to replace with that 8. So we have g of 8 equals 5, replace x with 8, minus 12. Now we do some calculation. 5 times 8 is 40, minus 12, and you do that calculation, I believe you get 28. So you'll have about $28 if this was talking about money. Okay? So what these functions are doing is simply replacing x with a given value. Same thing's going to happen here. I see f of 3. What happens when x is 3 in this f of x equals 2x squared equation? So f of x is 3. Okay, I've replaced that x with 3. That means every other place I see x, I got to replace it with 3. So now I have 2 times 3 squared. If you've forgotten squaring something, it's just doing a number times itself. You can also use a square button in a calculator. But that would give you 2 times 3, or 2 times 9, which is 18 for a final answer. Okay. And now we're going to start having a little bit more word problem situation here. So this says the perimeter of a square, P, depends on the side. This can be written in the function notation PS. what is the best interpretation of P3 equals 12? All right, so what this tells me is S is my sides, right? That's what we were told up here. I've replaced sides with 3. So I know if my sides are 3, then how big is my perimeter? Well, my perimeter ends up being this 12 on the outside. So then my perimeter, started spelling the wrong word. Then my perimeter is 12. So if my sides are 3, you look in the parentheses first. What is in the parentheses? That's the sides. Fill that in first. So sides are 3. Then your perimeter is 12. If this was talking about money, if my time was 3, how much money do I have? Those kind of things. Okay. And the next thing we want to talk about functions are some kind of key terms. The first of these terms will be the range. Range is the set of all output for a function. So the range is once you put stuff in, what do you get out? i.e., the 12 here would be your range because it's what I got out. The 3, on the other hand, would be my domain. Domain is the set of all inputs for a function. So that would be my 3 here. So what happens in each of these diagrams is showing domain and range. If I were to put 2 in, that would be my domain. The one I get out would be my range. I'm putting 0 into my equation, that's a domain. What I get out is my range. And it's like that for every single function. I have an input value and an output value. I work for 10 weeks. What do I get out of it? I work for 20 weeks. What do I get out of it? So domain is the number of weeks you work. The range would be the amount of money you make. And so we have some questions about these kind of dialogues, which hopefully you've done the reading and make a little sense. But, okay. Which mapping functions which mapping diagrams represent functions? So to be a function, your domain can have one output. What does that mean? So see how for A, the 2 goes to 1, the 4 goes to 3, the 6 goes to 5. That means every one of my domains only have one output. So A would be a function. If I look at B, 0 goes to 0, that's fine. But see what happens at 1 here? It goes to both -1 and 1. That means that B here would not be a function. Functions should never have that splitting off happening, which again we can see with C. See how with the A here, it goes to both the 4 and the 6. My domain has 2 outputs, that's not okay. But D, on the other hand, I got 1, I got 3 to 4, I got 5 to 6. D works. Okay? And 8's just kind of the corollary. Which mapping diagrams represent relations that are not functions? Because both B and C have this V happening from one of my domain, one of my inputs, I'm going to say B and C. Okay? And I think our next two just ask us for what are our domain and range for D. So remember, domain is what you put in. And I've already got it labeled for you. So my domain here is 1, 3, and 5. That's everything I put into that function. And the range for that function is the other side. It's everything I get out. So that's the 2, the 4, and the 6. So that's our functions. Basically, you're putting things into a set of values. That's your domain, is what you put in. Your range is what you get out. Plug in numbers for x to see what you get, and kind of think of your parentheses as it depends on. They have a relationship, whatever those two things are. If you have any questions, let me know.